Your boy Pyro, if you're just joining on stream or YouTube. Today we're checking out a Patreon pick from our boy Rin. Heathen Horde by Ensiferum. Definitely on the metal side of things, what I've heard so far, I've dug. This one looks like it might be off one of their later albums, 2015, yes. And the one that I checked out, a lot of the songs that I've heard already were off of Ensiferum, their second album? Looks like Victory Songs was their first album. You guys can correct me in the comments here on YouTube for sure. But yeah, with the self-titled 2008 one is the one that I've heard a couple songs off already. And those are pretty solid. But we'll find out here. Heathen Horde. Let's get it.
Too many times, as born traveled across the sky. Since our father sailed up for glory and honor, it's time to fulfill the wars given. Raise an army down, bless the stars in the sky. Still a war.
All right. So yeah, definitely not bad. It has some really nice sing-along choruses. But it is pretty stereotypical when it comes to the romanticizing of like I'm pretty sure this is probably talking about like the northern tribes. So like probably the Vikings, the Norse, maybe the Anglo-Saxons, like that kind of thing. But something also to think about, a lot of these, where they're talking about like blood and war and like that's like in our eyes, that's what the Vikings were. But realistically, we just think that because they had no written histories. And the only written histories that you find were actually from Christians, a lot of them being monks. And they were terrified because these guys would just show up, steal everything, pillage shit, and leave. But realistically, Vikings were, the Norse were more farmers, trader type, rather than show up and butcher you. If I'm remembering correctly, there was like, they used their ships. They were like, they could get up rivers and stuff because of their styles of their long ships. And if I'm recalling correctly, there was like a time where the French saw them and were terrified over their stature. And they basically just paid the Vikings to leave, gave them a shit ton of treasure, and they left. They went back home, and they were like, these guys just gave us a bunch of shit, basically. Like, we showed up, and they said, leave, and we'll pay you a bunch of stuff. So then they all came back. But I think they also had some, like, weapon-wise, they did have superior, like, metalworking. If I'm recalling correctly, they found a lot of Viking swords that were created with technology that we didn't even realize they had. But it is kind of funny when you realize that, I don't know if it's funny per se, but most of the history we have is because of Christianity coming in and converting them as they went, which was probably sort of the downfall of Vikings, but also they had a jacked up justice system with blood feuds where, like, if you killed my brother, I could then challenge you to kill, and then someone in your family could challenge another family, and it just kept going. It never really ended. So yeah, it's kind of a weird, skewed history where, like, a lot of what you've read is from the perspective of terrified Europeaners who haven't seen the massive stature of not only the men and women of the North, but their livestock. They had massive horses as well. And in fact, I think you can look down in Constantinople, I believe they had a Viking guard that was there, and they were just so tall and big that they paid these guys to, for the intimidation factor. So I do find, at least they didn't have like horned Vikings, because that's another thing. Like the Viking helmets with horns, that came from an opera that was in the early 1900s, and people just got it stuck in their head that Vikings have horned helmets. So there's like a lot of stuff that just gets muddied up when we're talking about the Vikings in general. So yeah, I do think this one is a little bit more on that side of like looking at it from the Christian monk perspective of like, we're scary, we've glory in killing, and we're honorable, but realistically they were just traders and merchants just trying to make a living. But that doesn't mean they didn't butcher people later. I think maybe after they're like, we are pretty scary, and they just roll up and do whatever they want pretty much. And there were a lot of, wars later on as well that they were involved in too. But, yeah, very intriguing to say the least. This one for me is probably going to sit around maybe a 6. I don't know if I'll even put it in a playlist. I'll give it another listen and see what I think. But, yeah. Not too shabby, just maybe a little overdone for me personally. Shout out to our boy Ren. Appreciate you very much. Yeah, toodles.